You're my never, never land. Won't you come with me?
Hey everybody, let's go to Never Never Land. Inspiration. So what inspired Never Never Land? First and foremost, Post Malone's track Circles really had a heavy influence on this one. It's a track my kids fell in love with and we listened to a lot in the car during this period of time. The Switched On Pop podcast did a deep dive into this song, and so that was really helpful to try and get some of the sonic feel behind what this track might be. So when I set out to record this track, I had that song kind of sitting in my head. But as I went, I thought about the different bands that had influenced me throughout my youth. Bands like REM, bands like The Smiths, bands that really focused on a jangle-heavy guitar sound. And I tried to craft a track that had all of those different influences in mind. Instrumentation. So what instruments did I use while recording this? No surprise that I used GarageBand as my digital audio workstation. I used a lot of the stock instruments there to help give me some additional depth to what's ultimately a pretty acoustic guitar-driven song. I used my good friend here, the Rickenbacker 360 Jet Glow, as I put this song together. This was kind of the first main instrument that I recorded. And I complemented that with the acoustic guitar that I have sitting back there in the background. I didn't use any third-party apps for this particular one. I thought that those guitars and the stock GarageBand stuff was enough to put together a really meaningful track. So speaking of the track, let's give it a listen. Here we go. So you can hear some swelling synths behind the acoustic guitars right there. Before we delve into the guitar and bass.
I want you to see
And the first verse.
who I used to be before you met me.
It's kind of a breezy vibe, a jangly vibe. It's pretty spare. There's not a whole lot going on yet. I'll start to layer in additional elements though as we continue to go throughout the track.
But I keep them alive on the inside. Keep them alive, I keep them alive.
This pre-chorus is meant to build some tension
Memories alive on the
before we get to the chorus.
You're my never, never land. Won't you come with me? Won't you take my hand? All the things we're gonna be. Do you understand? You're my Peter.
So the track up to this point has been pretty spare. Now I'll start to layer in some additional sonic elements throughout the rest of the song.
With those childish eyes, always wondering why.
The orchestral little flourish
No
there.
matter how high, you know that you can fly.
The vocal effect right there.
Under evening skies, it's you and I. But I keep them alive on
You
the
sort of hear the
inside.
strings now beneath
Keep
the
them
pre-chorus.
alive, I keep them alive.
Bring a different, thicker vibe to it. Here's the chorus.
You're my never, never land. Won't you come with me? Won't you
There's that
take
additional
my hand?
organ sound right
All
there.
the things we're gonna be. Do you understand? You're my Peter Pan.
Roll right into the bridge.
Sharing, you're my favorite story. Won't you share?
And I felt like the bridge probably was worth backing off
Story.
before again building some more intensity as we go to the final chorus. It's two choruses actually.
You're my never, never land. Won't you come with me? Won't you take my hand? All the things we're gonna be. Do you understand?
Now you'll see some additional instrumentation coming in. And there'll be some additional vocal pieces right here.
Won't you come with
And one more to kind of close the song out.
all the things you're gonna be. You're my favorite. Do you understand? You're my Peter Pan.
And there you have it. Let's jump into the lyrics of this one and talk about the lyrics of Never Never Land. So this one, obviously inspired by Peter Pan quite a bit. This whole lyrical concept, though, really stems from me giving some thought to which parts of my youth, which parts of my nostalgia I ultimately wanted to share with my own kids as they grow up and develop. And that thought was sort of planted in my head when for whatever reason Peter Pan kept popping up in our lives, whether it was through the movies or through Hook or for what ultimately became the album cover. That's an image that was definitely latched to my mind, and you can see it throughout these lyrics. There's allusions to flying. There's an allusion to Wendy at the very end. There's Peter Pan's name is mentioned throughout. I don't mention Captain Hook anywhere at all, but I definitely do mention Never Never Land. And so I think probably in previous iterations of these lyrics I did have pirates in here somewhere and perhaps the different Lost Boys and such, but for this final cut, those didn't quite make it. Structure. How is this song structured? So this one's very similar to a lot of the songs that I've written. It's got a pretty straightforward structure. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and then 2 choruses to close things out at the very end. The cover. What does the cover of this one look like, and why did I pick it? This, in terms of what my covers have been for my singles, is pretty self-explanatory. It's almost like I commissioned this one. You can see that the cover's a chalk drawing, and it's meant to literally be Peter Pan, and that sort of chalk dusty thing near the end is meant to be Tinkerbell. And this is something that just showed up on my driveway one afternoon. The kids put it together because they had been going through a Peter Pan phase for whatever reason, and I think I was in the middle of working on this song and maybe had just started some of it, and that particular image, that drawing showing up on my driveway, really made me kind of go, yep, I'm on the right path. Retrospectively, so what would I do differently if I was to recut this song? 2 things pop to mind for me. The first is to go ahead and record the Rickenbacker guitar through the Vox AC30 using a microphone. When I recorded the Rickenbacker, I just jacked it right into the iPad and recorded it from there. And I think it does sound pretty great, but I think through the AC30 it could probably sound even better. The second piece, the second thing I would do differently if I were re-recording this song would be to focus a little bit more on the orchestral stuff. I think I have a little bit more confidence now after I've done a song or two with some more of those orchestral things going on, that I could probably layer in a couple additional instruments and make it sound really bright and full. Maybe something more Smithsy, or maybe even something like Nick Drake. Thanks for being here.
You're my never, never land. Won't you come